Check out the full story on Amazon. Link in the description below. 2 days later, I was back at my house, with Zach and Ben sitting in my living room, drinking beers and being drunk to the point that when someone breathed, it was funny. It had been a hell of a ride. We went on a 10-day boat trip, got attacked by these shitty little things called anglers, discovered an ancient temple, got chased by the largest living organism on the face of the earth, and got stranded on a desert island for a week. If you ask me, that's a hell of a week. After the Coast Guard picked us up, we got told not to speak of what we saw, and we had to sign dozens of NDAs, but nobody cared about those. And this doesn't come as a huge news story, because we arrived as non-discreetly as possible, and no reporters were allowed to speak to us. We said our goodbyes to George and Alex. And as a thank you gift, Zach gave Alex a custom-made combat rifle with a 40-round cartridge. We still get the occasional postcard from him, and it seemed all was well, except for the uneasy fact that the gulper was out there somewhere, and that was probably going to decimate all the aquatic ecosystems on Earth if we didn't do anything about it. But we still had a lot of questions, ones that brought up even more questions, like where did the Leviathan, the Deep One, and the gulper come from? And this whole pattern was ridiculous. Whales and large sharks were being eaten by the Leviathan, and then we discovered the Deep One, which wasn't responsible for the Leviathan's death, but the Deep One got eaten by the thing that was. Holy shit, whispered Zach, standing up. I just got an email, and the U.S. Army wants me to go on a mission with them to kill that gulper eel thing that always tries to kill us. I stood up and tossed my half-full beer can across the room, causing it to burst open on the wall. Are you serious? Yeah, Zach said nonchalantly. But they only asked me to go with them. It'll likely be a 3-day trip. Oh, okay. The next day, I said goodbye to Roger, Ben, stuck my middle finger up at that asshole named Kyle, and I went on a plane ride to a Seaside U.S. Air Force base. I was excited beyond belief. In a way, I was disappointed that Roger and Ben wouldn't come with me. I was quite lonely for most of the plane ride, and, nothing happened except for that baby who cried for most of the plane ride. Screw that kid. I arrived at the Air Force Base, and I was directed into a rec room where a Special Operations Navy SEAL asked me some questions. His name was Jonah. He was Australian, 6.5 feet tall, bald, covered in tattoos, and built like Stone Cold Steve Austin on steroids. And it was also the kind of guy who could probably twist your head off like a fucking Barbie doll. But the joke was on him, because I was still an inch taller than him. Okay, Jonah sighed. What exactly happened on your expedition? It's just like I told you before. We searched for a giant aquatic superorganism a couple miles offshore, but it turns out that creature wasn't the apex predator. But what was the apex predator chased us off to a deserted island, and we stayed there for about a week until some fishermen passed by and found us. Then the Coast Guard picked us all up. Then I got an email from you guys. Now I'm here. Come on. All this sounds like a plot for a cheesy deep-sea thriller novel. That's what this is. And also, I thought you knew what happened. You guys are the military, right? You guys know everything. Jonah gave him a confused look. No, not everything. Well, shit. That just makes this even more confusion. Well, anyways, what I just said was the accurate and true version of what happened. You happy now? Yeah, you'll have to sign these. Hand me a stack of papers. What the hell are these? NDA papers. This is just so we can make sure you keep your secrets. You said you guys didn't know much as we did. Just don't ask any more questions. All right. Thanks, Jonah. After some time learning what to do and not what to do at the military base, I was told what the plan was. The oversimplified explanation of what the military is going to do is this. They were going to take a couple of small naval battleships and a few fighter jets, go to the area where the gulper was last spotted. The naval battleships would trace the exact location of the gulper eel thing, and when it's found, the jets would engage, drop multiple bombs in different areas of the gulper. So since the midsection area of the gulper was pretty thin, it's just like a normal gulper eel about 50 meters in diameter. They were hoping that a well-placed bomb drop could sever the gulper's body, killing it. It seems like a dumb plan, but a dumb plan that might work. But another interesting aspect of the mission was that the jets the pilots were going to fly, they were fucking Northrop Grumman B-2 Spirit fighter jets. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, B-2 Spirit fighter jets are the newest, quietest, deadliest, fastest, and most powerful jets yet. They look like actual modern UFOs. And for over 2 decades, B-2 Spirit fighter jets have been unstoppable. But these jets were designed to carry and drop ballistic missiles and nuclear weapons. And we just weren't aiming for that kind of damage. So the jets were carrying smaller bombs. Not big enough to destroy New York, but big enough to decimate 10 entire households. So the bombs were pretty big. Turns out, it was so fucking cramped in those jets. Like I couldn't even move my legs. It was that cramped. No space. Not at all. So from a U.S. Air Force base, we took off into the skies. We went high. Really high. With several F-15E Strike Eagle jets following us. We dropped down closer to the sea surface. When the naval ships had spotted the gulper eel thing, or the gulper as Roger calls it, it was 60 nautical miles offshore, somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. This thing moved fast, but given the absolute speed of the Grumman, we closed that distance in no time. The pilot of the jet said, "Hold on to something." Before I could say anything else, I felt the jet take a steep drop in the weightlessness of my stomach. Now, given the fact that the guy was even piloting a Northrop Grumman B-2 Spirit fighter jet, I never really got his name, so I'm just calling him Guy. He probably had driven this jet 100 times before, but I'd never been on any aircraft of this speed and class, so I just about almost threw up, right there in the passenger seat. But luckily that never happened. When the jet slowed to a more manageable speed and I could finally breathe again, I looked outside. And I saw the one and only gulper. Even though I couldn't see the gulper's head, the hump of its body protruding from the ocean surface was also pretty big. And given that Guy yelled, "Holy shit!" right in the middle of piloting the jet, I could tell that it was his first time seeing something this large. I, however, had seen this oversized gulper eel way more times than I wanted, so I wasn't as phased as Guy when the gulper came into view. My heart just about stopped when Guy said, "Target locked. Get ready to fire." As the jet flew right over the gulper eel creature, the bomb hatch on the underside of the jet opened, and 2 small bombs dropped onto it. It screeched and lifted its enormous head, sending enormous waves across the ocean surface. "That didn't do fucking anything!" I yelled at Guy. Guy shook his head and steered the jet back above the gulper. "No, those bombs were just to get its attention. Now these are the real bombs." Guy pressed several buttons, and the barrage of bombs hit the gulper, so he flew the hell out of there. There was an earth-shattering boom as the bombs exploded all over the creature. Holy shit, I thought. The jet stopped, turned around again, and we saw what was left of the gulper. It was blown up to shreds, half its skull missing, if it even had one. The jets bombed and destroyed the rest of the remains, and we headed back to the Air Force Base. True to his words, Zach came back in about 3 days. The only thing he said was that the military had taken care of things. He was very vague about what he did on the mission, but I guess he probably worked with some Black Ops organization dedicated to bombing large things, probably North Korea, to bomb the shit out of the gulper. And now it was all over. Completely Over. The Leviathan's killer was found. We accidentally discovered what we thought killed the Leviathan, the deep one, and we found the thing that actually did. And we got stranded on a... Never mind, you already know what happened. That's all history. So, anyway, everything was completely over. But since this is only half over, you, the reader, will think that everything is not over. And sadly, you're not wrong. 1 week later, Kyle, former arsehole and new roommate, rushed in the door after going to the convenience store after going to buy some beer and cigars. He was sweating and his face was pale. But the strangest thing was that he didn't get any beer. "Oh, hey man, what's wrong?" I asked.
"A lot of things. But remember when I said some dumbass old man hired me to steal the skin samples?"
"Yeah?"
"His goons are back. Remember? His name is Lawrence. His fucking goons are back. I was at Earl's convenience store and 2 weird guys jumped out of a black SUV holding knives and tried to jump me. Earl came out with a huge fucking shotgun and scared the shit out of the goons and I ran off."
"Are you sure those guys were his goons?"
"Yeah. They said, Lawrence needs to speak to you, and they tried to kidnap me."
Ha. Payback.
"Who's Lawrence?" "The guy who wanted me to steal skin samples. You know, the poacher scientist dude."
"Oh. Well, I guess it's all okay. They probably didn't find you, so I guess we're okay."
Shit! Get down!"
"What?" I asked, confused.
"They're back. Holy shit, they found me."
"Damn, those kids are totally in love with you." I looked outside, and sure enough, a black pickup truck and an SUV had pulled up in front of my driveway. In other words, we were fucked. "Get the bat."
"What?"
"Get the baseball bat. The one you left here."
"Oh."
Kyle reached over and pulled the baseball bat out of the umbrella rack. I grabbed a beer bottle Kyle left lying around. I was about to tell Kyle to wait for those guys to come inside, and then ambush them. But then I saw one of the goons step out of his pickup truck. He was 6'5", with a handlebar mustache and a leather jacket and sunglasses. And he had a fucking pistol in his right hand and a plastic bag in the other. These guys were either going to kidnap or torture us. 5 other goons stepped out of the cars, holding brass knuckles and broken beer bottles.
Holy shit!
Those fucking clowns have guns.
You know what? Never mind. Let's just hide upstairs.
Kyle lowered his bat and stopped smiling.
Oh, I was hoping for a fight.
We locked the doors, rushed upstairs and hid in my room, just as one of the goons, leather jacket, yelled,
"Open up!"
as he kicked the door. I grabbed the phone and instead of calling 911, I called Zach because he was more reliable. And also because he was a head taller than most of the guys, who were still pretty tall. Almost immediately, Zach picked up.
"Yeah?"
"I'm in sort of a problem here." Leatherjacket and his goons were now kicking the door and yelling.
"Mm-hmm.
"There's a bunch of guys trying to break in and kidnap Kyle and me, and I don't think they're sober or sane."
"Alright, I'm on my way,"
Zach said, and he hung up. That left me and Kyle stuck in my shitty little room while Leatherjacket kept screaming threats at us. My heart just about stopped when Kyle yelled,
"Hey, do you mind shutting the fuck up?"
He had just given away our position. In an instant, the thugs stopped shouting. Everything went silent. And the thugs all looked up at Kyle, staring at them from the upstairs window. I grabbed Kyle's shoulders, pulled him back inside, and I shook them to the point where I thought they would get dislocated.
"Kyle, you fucking dumbass! They know where we are now!"
Yeah, I have an idea." Kyle stood up, hit a loose brick in the closet with a hammer that was so conveniently lying around, and picked up the brick. I could see where he was going. He looked up at me, smiled, and threw the brick from the second floor down to one of the goons. I rushed to the window, and sure enough, one of the goons lay on the ground, knocked out. But he was probably dead. Leatherjacket and his crew looked up, and Kyle prepared to throw another brick down. And that was when I heard a gunshot. And Kyle slowly recoiled into the room with a half-broken brick with a bullet hole and a pale face. Well, shit. That didn't work.
Of course it didn't. Right then, the goons broke into the house, yelling and smashing things, and also right then, a large, shiny 4x4 pickup truck rolled into my driveway. Zach. Zach walked out of his truck holding a metal baseball bat. He silently walked into the house, tapped Leatherjacket's shoulder, and when he turned around, Zach swung his bat right at his face. Before Leatherjacket could scream something like, "Oh shit!" he was on the floor, unconscious and with a newly broken nose. One down. The 5 other goons turned around and seeing their leader bleeding and unconscious, they all ran, charging at Zach. One of the thugs took out a small revolver, pointing it at Zach and yelled something, but Zach grabbed the wrist, twisting it, and the gun fell out of the goon's hand. Then Zach kneed him in the stomach and kicked him across the room. 2 down, I thought. 4 left to go. But from behind, one of the goons smashed a chair on Zach's back. "Shit!" Zach yelled out. He whirled, grabbed the man's arm, and turned him around, using the goon's own body as a shield to take several kicks and punches from the remaining goons. Wannabe gangsters, discount mafia bosses, thugs, shitheads, whatever you want to call them. And then Ben appeared, grabbed one of the baseball bats, and between them, they kindly spent the rest of the afternoon disciplining the wannabe gangsters in his polite way, which consisted of punching, kicking, and swinging the bats at the remaining thugs until they were nothing more than a large pile of ass-beaten bodies. Once Zach and Ben were done, Ben sat on the couch while Zach walked upstairs and swung open my bedroom door. "All right, please tell me more in depth why I had to save your sorry asses." Surprisingly, other than the small bruise on his back, Zach had gotten out of the ordeal relatively unharmed. "All right, please get the drunk homeless guy out of here. I don't trust him. Kiss my ass." "Kyle," I said in a stern voice, "you know I can evict your fat ass." Kyle sighed, scoffed again, and walked out of the room, flipping the bird at Zach. Zach ignored him and turned back to me. "You know why those thugs came to get you guys?" "Well, I don't think those thugs were trying to get me. I think they were trying to kidnap Kyle. They made their first attempt to kidnap Kyle when they jumped him at the convenience store. Kyle got away, so the thugs followed him and called in backup. Those thugs were sent by a guy who hired Kyle to steal those skin samples from me a while back. Well, Kyle failed because you kicked his ass whilst passing us by on the road, so that weird mad scientist poacher guy sent some thugs to get Kyle for failing. I think the guy's name was... Lawrence. Wait, did you just say the guy's name was Lawrence?" "Yeah? Why are you asking?" Zach paused for a second, thinking about what to say next. For the past few weeks we've made a connection with all the giant marine organisms and Lawrence and his men. From what we've gathered, Lawrence is the leader and operator of a very secretive and powerful shadow organization that is based one town over. And according to a couple of the cryptid hunters who have spied on Lawrence's base, they've been transporting large concealed metal cages in their trucks. We've also learned about their organization's name. Its name is CORE, which stands for Center for Organism Research Experimentation. I nodded slowly. "All right. Well, what the hell does this mean for us?" Zach smiled sarcastically. "Look, dumbass, I thought you would have put the pieces together by now, but I forgot that you're way dumber than you look." "Thanks. We're not sure, but there's a possibility that Lawrence may have let some of those creatures we've seen loose, whether by releasing them from somewhere or containing them." "But that's impossible," I exclaimed. "Examination I did of the Leviathan's skin revealed that it was very, very old. It somehow survived for ages, and all that shit." "Yeah. Well, this is all fun. But Zach, please leave me out of this. You're probably going to end up infiltrating their base, kicking ass, and that's cool and all. But please leave me out of it." Zach seemed a little sad. "Well, okay.
but you might still be dragged into this, so prepare for war. I sighed and said, all right, but what are we going to do with all the unconscious dickheads downstairs? Zach made an expression like he just remembered that he had left the stove on. Oh, I almost forgot about them. When we went back downstairs, all of the goons were still knocked out, and Kyle was slapping the unconscious men and yelling at them to wake up. Zach had beat those guys pretty hard. Now that I think about it, Zach was good at fighting. He'd taken on 6 giants of men alone, with only a baseball bat and pure skill. And based on how badly the goons were beaten, they would be unconscious for a while. Trying to appear as innocent as possible, Zach, Kyle, and I began to shove the men into the seats of their cars. The men were so heavy I had to ask Ben to help. Good old Ben. And after explaining everything I had just been told, he said, wow. But at this point I was half expecting this to happen. Ben was right. We had all seen so much weird shit, this kind of thing could almost be considered to be normal. Yeah, it's been a long time since we've seen all you. Roger, it's only been a week. Oh. We finished loading the fat asses into their pickup trucks, and we waited until the sun had almost set. Few people were outside at night. Frankly, we shouldn't have been too, but at this point, no one gave a shit. While we waited, I cleaned up the mess that Zach and the thugs had made inside. At some point, one of the thugs woke up, but we just beat them until they were unconscious again. It was very satisfying. When nightfall finally came, Zach and I got into the 2 pickup trucks, one of us driving each. The plan was, go into a dirt road, drop the unconscious thugs in the woods, and peel out of there. Ben rode in the truck I was in, and since Kyle couldn't be left alone in the house, we had to compromise. In the truck I was in, all the seats, excluding the passenger seat, was empty. Kyle also couldn't be left in the same pickup truck alone with Zach, because one of them would probably end up with a little more than broken bones. So we left Kyle alone in the house with one of Zach's most powerful shotguns and a sub-automatic pistol. Since Kyle used to be in the army, he didn't need any guidance using the weapons. I tossed my sword in the back seat of the truck. We drove to the edge of town, ominous trees overgrowing onto the road we were on. When we dropped the still unconscious thugs in the middle of the woods, we were about to get the hell out of Dodge, until we heard screeching from deeper in the woods. Although we should have GTFO'd, we stepped out of our trucks and stared into the tree line. We were on a dirt road in the middle of the night, and on one side of us was a river, and on the other, an enormous forest. Anyway, if anything came at us, we were screwed. Not again, Zach sighed. We walked over to the trunk of the truck, opened it, and revealed a small arsenal of firearms. Before we came out here, Zach had packed a couple of guns, blades, and explosives, and put them in the truck that originally belonged to Leather Jacket. He took out one large assault rifle and put on the headlamp, and once he was satisfied with how the magazine was positioned, he tossed a large rifle to Ben. You know how to use this? Zach asked. I already knew the answer. No? Fine. He then tossed the gun at me, and I caught it mid-air and loaded it. I'd done a little skeet shooting and some hunting in the past, so I wasn't new to guns. Then I stated the obvious. It was so obvious that I shouldn't even have to state it. Zach, why don't we just hop in our trucks and nope the hell out? There is no reason for us to interfere or get involved with this kind of shit. Zach scoffed. I get paid to do this kind of shit. Now, whether you want to stay or not is your choice. It's probably going to get messy out here. Let me guess. Wendigo? What, are you talking about those deer things that broke in your house a while back? Ben interrupted. Yeah. Yes, I am. We were all cut short when a loud screech emanated from the woods, except now it was closer. A lot closer. Fuck this, I'm out, Ben said as he jumped into one of the trucks and sped off. I had to admit. Just getting up and noping the hell out of there did make him look like a scared shithead. But he didn't need to get involved in any of this shit. Zach and I, mostly Zach on the other hand, had dealt with these kinds of things before. And Ben couldn't use a gun, so his presence probably wouldn't matter. 3 o'clock. What the fuck do you mean? It's 8 o'clock right now, I whispered. You know what? Never mind. All of a sudden, all noise stopped. The screeching, the wind, everything. Now I warn you that this may sound cliché as hell, but it's as if time itself had stopped. Then, out of nowhere, the Wendigo leaped out of the woods and right into our path. It swatted Zach into a tree. I could tell that this was the only surviving Wendigo of the 6 that attacked my house. 6 Wendigos. 7, I don't remember. Zach told me that he had thrown his knife at the Wendigo's shoulder, and there was a large scar where the knife hit the Wendigo. But the knife was missing. We had named this one Skinny. Skinny raised his arms, preparing to smash Zach into all hell, but I took aim and I shot the Wendigo's forearm joint. Now Zach always carried very high-caliber weapons, and this one was no different. From the looks of it, the rifle I was holding was a high-caliber elephant rifle from the 80s. The recoil sent me back and I stumbled onto my arse. Surprisingly, Skinny's entire forearm had been neatly blown off, leaving only a bleeding stump. It was a very good shot, considering that I had not used high-powered rifles. Skinny screeched, and before it could move any further, Zach riddled his chest with bullets. Skinny screeched again as he ran off into the woods, holding his bleeding stump with his good arm. I rushed over to Zach, where he was slumped against the large oak tree. You okay? I helped him up. Yep. Son of a bitch bruised my ribs. Thanks for saving my life. I owe you. You've saved my ass 1,000,000 times. I guess it was time to return the favor. Let's get out of here, before any more weird shit shows up. And so, we walked back to the remaining pickup truck.